How can you sit in my house and tell me that my husband is dead? Is this a prank or something? Bianca asks her mother amidst disbelief and confusion. Welcome to Treeside Tales, a home of unique African folk tales. Bianca and Julius had been married for 3 years. Their love story wasn't loud, but it was solid, quietly rooted in understanding, patience, and prayer. They met during NYSC in Benue State, became friends over shared church duties, and stayed close even after redeployment. 2 years later, they tied the knot in a modest but beautiful ceremony in Enugu. Their first year of marriage was blissful. They had each other, steady jobs, and the excitement of building a life from scratch. A year later, their daughter Zara was born. Zara came with her loud cries and curious eyes, turning their small flat into a home filled with laughter, lullabies, and the occasional mess. Bianca worked as a customer service supervisor in one of the top banks in Enugu, and Julius was a contract engineer with a local construction firm. Life was simple, sometimes stressful, but they were content. They had plans. Start saving, buy a piece of land, and maybe have a second child once Zara started school. But everything changed in their 3rd year of marriage. One Tuesday morning in mid-February, Julius received an email that made his heart race. It was an offer letter from a major oil servicing company in Port Harcourt. A permanent role, a generous salary, housing allowance, medical coverage for the entire family. A dream job. He couldn't wait to show Bianca. That night they sat in the living room, Zara asleep between them on the couch. Julius opened the email and handed her the phone. Bianca read silently, her brows tightening. When she finished, she looked at him. "Port Harcourt?" she asked. Julius nodded. "It's everything we've prayed for, B. The pay alone is—" "But we live in Enugu. My job is here. My family is here. Our life is here." "I know," he said gently, "but think about the future. Think about Zara. We can finally afford to start that building project. We won't need to borrow. We can get a better creche for her. Better everything." Bianca was quiet. She looked down at Zara, then back at her husband. "When do they want you to start?" "Next month." That night they lay in bed in silence, facing opposite sides. It wasn't that she wasn't proud of him. She was. It was the reality of the change that unsettled her. The following week they agreed he should take the job. Temporarily, they would live apart. Julius would travel to Port Harcourt and return to Enugu every last weekend of the month. They would figure out the long-term plan later, whether Bianca would apply for a transfer or resign altogether. In the beginning, things went well. Julius left Enugu in the first week of March. He settled quickly into the company's furnished apartment and sent photos of the clean rooms, the kitchen, the compound. Every evening, he video-called Bianca and Zara. He'd watch Zara eat, ask about her day, and whisper, "I love you," as she drifted to sleep. Bianca, on her part, adjusted to solo parenting. It wasn't easy balancing her bank job, house chores, and a toddler, but she managed. Her mother sometimes came over to help, and her church friends checked in regularly. Then came the last weekend of April. Bianca was so excited she took the Friday off. She cooked Julius's favorite oha soup, laid out clean sheets, and even bought a new pair of pajamas for Zara. When he walked through the door that Friday evening, she threw her arms around him. Zara shrieked, "Daddy," and clung to his leg like he'd never left. That weekend was full of cuddles, family movie nights, and long talks about the future. "Maybe by January I'll request a transfer," Bianca said on Sunday afternoon. "I think we can make it work in Port Harcourt." Julius smiled and nodded. "That would be great." Then came the goodbyes. Zara cried. Bianca tried not to. Julius promised to call once he arrived. By evening, he was gone. They returned to their new normal, calls, messages, and countdowns to the next visit. Their life continued this way for the next 8 months. Julius came back every month end with lots of goodies for Bianca and Zara. The job really did change their life. One evening, Bianca was folding Zara's tiny laundry when she heard the knock. It was a soft, uncertain knock. 2 gentle raps, then silence. She paused, frowning slightly. It was Monday evening. No one ever visited them at that time, and Julius wasn't due for another visit until the end of the month. She dropped the clothes on the couch and walked slowly to the door. "Who's there?" she asked. No answer. Her heart picked up a beat. She hesitated for a second, then slowly opened the door. And there he was, Julius, standing in front of her, but not the Julius she knew. His shirt was dusty and slightly torn at the shoulder. His jeans had a long scrape across the thigh. His face was streaked with sweat and dirt, and there was a fresh cut above his brow. He looked shaken, like someone who had run through a battlefield and barely made it out. "Julius," Bianca whispered, her voice catching. Before she could say another word, he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her, tight, too tight, as if she would vanish if he let go. She felt his chest heave slightly against hers. He smelled like dust, sweat, and something else she couldn't place, like metal and fear. "I missed you," he murmured, his voice hoarse. "God, I missed you both." She pulled back just enough to look into his face. "What happened? Where's your phone? Your car?" He exhaled shakily. "We had a conference in Anambra. It ended earlier than expected, so I decided to come home for 2 days before returning to Port Harcourt. I didn't go with my car. We used company logistics. I thought it would be easy to get to Enugu from Anambra, so I entered public transport." Bianca's eyes widened. "Public transport. Julius, you never—" "I know," he said quickly. I wanted to see you. I needed to. But on the way we were robbed. They stopped the bus, took everyone's phones, wallets, everything. We had to run, be into the bush. I've never run like that in my life." Bianca covered her mouth in shock. "I couldn't call. I just kept going. I kept thinking about you and Zara," he said, voice trembling. "That's why I look like this. I'm sorry." She pulled him into another hug. No, don't be sorry. You're here. You're safe. That's all that matters." From the corner of the room, Zara stood near the wall, watching them. "Zara," Bianca said with a smile, bending to scoop her up. "Look who's here. It's Daddy." But the little girl shook her head vigorously and clung to the wall. "Come now," Bianca coaxed gently. "Daddy's missed you." Zara didn't move. Her lips wobbled. "Z." Julius took a small step forward, crouching slightly. "It's me, Daddy." The moment he stretched his arms toward her, Zara let out a high, frightened wail. She screamed like she was being burned, shaking her head, tears pouring down her cheeks. She turned and ran into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Bianca and Julius were frozen in place. "That's strange," Bianca said slowly, glancing toward the closed door. "She's never done that before." Julius straightened up, trying to smile. "Maybe she's just cranky. Kids are funny sometimes." "Yeah," Bianca replied, but her tone wasn't confident. "She might be tired. Or maybe the way you look scared her." "Maybe," Julius murmured, rubbing the back of his neck. "Let her sleep. I'll try again tomorrow." Bianca forced a smile and went to the kitchen to get him water, but as she walked, her thoughts lingered on Zara's reaction. It wasn't just fear, it was terror. And something about Julius, his hug, the hollow way he looked at her, the way he didn't meet her eyes too long, made her stomach twist. She told herself it was the trauma of being robbed. That was all. But deep inside her chest, something fluttered uneasily. Something was off. That night, after Zara finally cried herself to sleep, Bianca and Julius sat in the living room with cups of warm tea between them. The lights were dim, the fan hummed softly, and for a while it almost felt like one of their normal reunion weekends. Just the two of them, talking late into the night like best friends. They talked about everything. Bianca's new branch manager at the bank who was always on her neck, the strange woman who had been sitting outside their compound every afternoon, selling boiled corn, and the hilarious moment when Zara had tried to use the TV remote as a phone. Julius chuckled softly at that one, shaking his head. "Zara's really growing fast," he said, smiling faintly. "She is," Bianca replied. "Sometimes I feel like I blink and she's learned a new word or a new dance move." They laughed. But there were moments, strange, quiet pauses, when Julius's smile would fade, and he would fall into a silence so deep it startled Bianca. "Are you okay?" she asked once, touching his hand. He nodded slowly. Yeah. Just tired, I guess." But something about the way he said it didn't sit well. Still, Bianca didn't push. Maybe he was still shaken by the robbery. When it got close to midnight, she stood up and stretched. "Should we go to bed?" she asked, her voice laced with hope. In the past, whenever Julius came home, their nights ended with passion. It was their way of reconnecting, of melting the distance between them. But tonight he shook his head gently. "Let's do something first," he said, walking toward the black duffel bag he had dropped when he arrived. He brought out a brown envelope and a small laptop. Then, one by one, he began laying out documents on the table. Bank statements, land titles, property documents, insurance papers. "What's all this?" Bianca asked, confused. "My life," Julius said with a half-smile. "Everything I own. I've been meaning to show you, but I always forget. At the conference, they spoke about securing your family, and it just hit me. Should anything happen, you need to know all this." He opened his laptop and showed her folders, one labeled Zara's Future, filled with receipts of savings plans and education funds. Another labeled Assets, with scanned copies of everything from land in Port Harcourt to a small plot in Nsuka. Bianca sat quietly, her heart full. It was overwhelming, but thoughtful. "Why now?" she asked gently. "I just feel like it's the right time," he replied. "You're my wife. You should know everything." She nodded, her fingers brushing over the documents. "Thank you." But still, something was strange. He didn't touch her like he usually did, not even a kiss goodnight. He just lay beside her, arms folded, staring at the ceiling. And once again, Bianca felt that quiet flutter in her chest. Something wasn't right. That night they didn't say much after going to bed. No more documents, no more stories, just quiet breathing in the dim light of their bedroom. Julius lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, while Bianca curled up beside him, her hand resting softly in his. It wasn't the usual warmth and closeness they shared on his return visits, but for what it was, it felt peaceful, familiar. She let her eyes close slowly, and within minutes sleep took them both. By morning, Bianca woke up earlier than usual. The sun hadn't fully broken through the curtains yet, but Zara was already babbling from her crib, half asleep and rolling from side to side. Bianca rolled over to Julius. He was still asleep, his hand still loosely holding hers. For a moment she just looked at him, at the man she loved, the man who had always made her feel safe. Despite the oddness of his arrival, despite the unease that lingered at the back of her mind, she wanted this day to be normal. She reached for her phone and dialed her branch manager. "Sir, I won't be coming in today. Over family matters. I plead your understanding." The manager didn't argue. "All right, Bianca. Take care of your family." The house was slow and soft that morning. Julius eventually woke up to the smell of eggs and fried plantain. They sat in the kitchen and ate together, just the three of them. Zara was still a bit hesitant, but better than the night before. She didn't cry when Julius spoke to her, and even allowed him to touch her hair. But any time he tried to lift her or carry her for too long, she'd squirm and wiggle out of his arms, her little eyes fixed on him like she was trying to figure him out. "She's warming up," Julius said with a nervous laugh, handing her a toy instead. "Kids are funny." "Yeah," Bianca murmured, watching Zara carefully. "But she keeps staring at you like you're different." They cooked jollof rice together afterward, laughing about how Julius always sliced onions like he was building a house. They gisted about the old days, their NYSC camp memories, even joked about their nosy neighbor downstairs who never knocked, just shouted, "Good morning," from the window. At exactly 1 p.m., Bianca's phone rang. It was Mama, her mother. "Bianca, how are you? I just wanted to check in. How's Zara? Hope you're all okay?" the old woman asked with genuine concern. "We're fine, Mama," Bianca replied, smiling. "Oh, okay, take good care of yourself and Zara." Bianca ended the call, only to receive another one about 30 minutes later, this time from her sister-in-law, Chidima. "Hey, sis. I just wanted to check on you. I don't know why I felt like calling. Are you all right?" Bianca blinked. "Yes, we're fine. Why is everyone calling today?" Chidima laughed. "Maybe the universe is just sending love." After the call ended, Bianca turned to Julius with a puzzled expression. "Is it not strange? My mum, then your sister, back to back. I've received more calls today than I have in weeks." Julius waved a hand dismissively. Relax. It's probably just a coincidence. They care about you, that's all." But Bianca didn't reply. She just nodded slowly, glancing over at Zara, who was watching Julius again, still staring, still unsure. And in Bianca's heart, that uneasy flutter returned. The knock came at exactly 4 p.m. Bianca, who was seated on the rug playing with Zara while Julius washed up, turned toward the door. "That must be the food vendor," she said aloud, standing up. But Julius, who was walking out of the bathroom, suddenly paused. His expression darkened just a little too quickly. "Go get the door," he said quietly, eyes fixed ahead. "I'll be in the toilet." Bianca frowned. "But you just came out of—" "I'll just be a minute," he cut in, then turned and disappeared back into their bedroom. Confused but not alarmed, Bianca walked to the door and opened it. Her breath caught. Standing there was her mother, and behind her, Chidima, her sister-in-law. Both of them looked pale, shaken, and as though they hadn't slept all night. Her mother's scarf was crooked, her eyes red. Chidima clutched her handbag to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Bianca's heart skipped. "Mummy? Chidima? What's wrong? Why are you here?" They said nothing at first. She stepped aside and let them in. "We spoke just hours ago on the phone. You didn't mention anything. What happened? Is everyone okay?" Her mother moved toward her slowly and took her hand. "Bianca," she said gently, the way one speaks to a child holding a lit match. "You need to sit down." Bianca shook her head, her chest beginning to tighten. "Why? What is this? What's going on?" Chidima gently lifted Zara from the floor, holding her as if shielding her from what was coming. Then her mother said it, slowly, clearly. "Julius was involved in a car accident yesterday evening on his way from a conference. Their company bus had a fatal accident. He died on the spot." Bianca blinked, laughed again, louder this time. A shaky, almost hysterical laugh. She pulled her hand from her mother's grip and stepped back. "What?" Her eyes widened. "You people are not well. What kind of expensive joke is this? Julius is here, in this house. He came home yesterday evening. He's inside the room as we speak." Chidima's mouth parted in horror. "What?" "Yes," Bianca shouted. "He came home, We ate, we talked, he even showed me documents. We slept in the same bed. Her mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. Bianca turned sharply. Come and see him yourself. He's right here. He's inside. She marched toward the bedroom, her heart now pounding, not from fear, but from a desperate need to prove them wrong. Her mother and Chidima followed closely, holding their breath. Bianca pushed the door open. The room was empty. No sign of Julius. The bedsheet still held the indent where he had lain. His duffel bag was gone. The envelope filled with documents. Vanished. "Mummy," Bianca whispered. Her voice cracked. "He was just here. He was here." She ran to the wardrobe. Nothing. The bathroom. Empty. She turned in a slow, shaking circle, her lips trembling. Zara, now in Chidima's arms, pointed at the empty bed and said softly, "Daddy, sleep there." Bianca collapsed to her knees. Tears blurred her vision. "No," she murmured over and over again. "He was here. He was here." But her mother already knew. She dropped to the floor beside her, arms wrapped around her daughter. "Bianca." He came to say goodbye. Bianca couldn't hear anything. Not her mother's trembling prayers, not Chidima's shaky voice as she tried to comfort her, not even Zara's soft humming in the corner. The world around her had gone silent, like someone had pressed pause on reality and left her trapped in a spinning void. She sat there on the cold tile floor of her bedroom, staring blankly at the spot Julius had lain just a few hours ago. Her arms wrapped tightly around herself, rocking gently back and forth, as if motion could reverse time, pull her back to last night, back to when he walked through that door looking like a man who had been dragged through fire but still came home. Her chest ached, a deep, pulsing ache that no tears could relieve. She had laughed in their faces when they told her. She had denied death to its face, because how could Julius be dead when she had slept beside him, touched him, heard his voice, seen the tired smile on his face as he told her about savings and property and Zara's future? Then it all began to unravel, thread by thread. She remembered his sudden reappearance, the way he didn't have his phone or his car, how his hug was too tight, too desperate, the way he stared into her eyes like it would be the last time. And then, Zara. Bianca's breath hitched. Zara had known. The way she cried when he tried to carry her. The way she clung to the walls. The way she stared at him, not in confusion, but in fear. She had seen something. Bianca buried her face in her hands and wept. It was no longer just grief. It was guilt. Guilt that she had brushed off her daughter's reaction. Guilt that she hadn't noticed how his smile didn't reach his eyes. Guilt that she hadn't questioned why he didn't hold her like before. Why he didn't touch her in the night. Why he chose, instead, to hand over his entire life in documents. He hadn't come home. He had come to say goodbye. Her sobs grew louder, messier, until her throat burned. Her mother pulled her into her arms and rocked her, whispering softly, "Let it out, my daughter. Let it out." Bianca cried like her soul was being torn apart. She cried for the man who kept his promise to always come home, even in death. She cried for Zara, who would grow up asking questions that could never be fully answered. She cried for herself, now a widow, thrown into a cruel new reality she wasn't ready for. And when she had no more tears left, just silence and a trembling body, she whispered through cracked lips, "He didn't come to stay. He came to leave gently." The days that followed were a blur of shadows and silence. Julius's body was brought back to Enugu. His company handled most of the logistics, apologizing profusely, offering their deepest condolences. They even offered to foot the entire burial cost, saying that Julius was their best staff under the 9 months he worked with them. The burial was fixed for the following Saturday. Family members poured in from Lagos, Abuja, and beyond. The house was filled with sobs, prayers, and the faint scent of candles. Bianca dressed in white lace and stood like stone beside the casket, holding Zara close to her chest. Zara, too young to grasp the full weight of death, only knew that something was missing. She kept glancing around as if still expecting her father to walk through the crowd and scoop her into his arms. As the coffin was lowered, Bianca knelt beside the grave, her voice soft but steady. "You kept your word, Julius. You came home. You told me everything. You made sure we'd be okay. Even in death, you didn't leave us in the dark." After the burial, the responsibilities came like waves. Bianca had to be strong, not just for herself, but for Zara. She went to the bank over the documents Julius had shown her, and for a moment she feared it had all been a dream. But the man at the desk, after verifying her marriage certificate and identity, nodded respectfully and pulled out the corresponding files. There it all was, the savings, the property titles, the education trust fund set up in Zara's name, everything he had promised. She blinked back tears. He had known. Back home, Bianca began putting pieces of her life together slowly. She hired a part-time nanny so she could return to work. But she kept Julius's memory alive in every way she could, his pictures on the wall, his clothes carefully packed but untouched, and the bedtime stories she told Zara, always starting with, "Your daddy once." Time passed, but the memory never faded. Bianca never forgot that Monday evening. The knock, the hug, the sleepless night beside him, the documents, the strange calm in his eyes. Julius didn't leave her unprepared. He came back not just as a ghost, but as a husband who loved her to the very end. Even in death, he had chosen love. Even in goodbye, he gave her peace. We have come to the end of this story. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.